Awesome. Welcome everybody to the Augur call week of, was it March 1st?
It's today.
Yep, today's the 5th. We've got a couple things on the agenda today. Should I go ahead and share my screen?
Yeah, if you're gonna be screen sharing the things on the agenda.
All right, so we've got a couple things that we can talk about today. The first one is we have a demo of our new ability to load repos into a database from a UI piece that one of the Augur members built. We've got some optimizations to the Docker image that I made. Not super important, but it just makes things a lot faster and a lot nicer. There's now a new feature to install dependencies for specific targets, like production or development. You can now export your environment, and then there was some other stuff I was going to add. But I figure we can just start with the demo if you want, Sean.
Yeah, I think the ability to, essentially making it possible for people to load repositories automatically or at a UI when they load the Docker container really puts all of Augur in a community manager's hands with very limited back end dinking around. So I think we've reached the point where you do not need to be a developer to do Augur things.
Agreed.
Yep.
It's a lot more user friendly.
Yep.
Now.
And
there was a request, I will tell you this, there was a request on YouTube to make a video for installing Augur.
Yeah, I think I forwarded that to you, Carter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yes, that is an excellent idea.
Yes.
And one that's been mentioned to me before.
Right. Now, I have no problem making it, but do we want to wait till we do another release before we put it out, since we're targeting, what, this coming Tuesday or Tuesday before? It'd probably be better
and then
to
we
have...
can tag the video at the release.
Yeah.
I would like very much to have all...
I can do it on dev, too. That's fine.
Well,
I would like to do it. I'd like to have a release out as soon as we can, but you know what the things are on that list, so it's just how fast we can get through them and then double check it and test.
Yep. But yeah, we definitely should do a video, and maybe this will serve as actually no, this won't serve as a tutorial because it's not finished yet. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the backend database container. So
the steps before this, Carter, are a person has cloned Augur, set up all of the development environment prerequisites that are available on readthedocs.io under the dev branch. And
so for the final use case, they actually won't have to do that. All they will have to do is clone the repository and have Docker installed. For the purposes of this demo, because this feature is not fully integrated yet, because it's still a little bit of a work in development, they would need to have set up the development environment. But ideally, when somebody clones the repository, all they would have to do is run Docker Compose. Docker Compose command, and it would bring everything up, initialize the database with their config file, with the default config that would preset for all the Docker stuff. So really, ideally, they wouldn't have to do any development work. All they'd have to do is clone it and then run the command.
Clone Augur, install Docker, run this command.
Yep.
Sounds great. Show me.
So for the purposes of this demo, I've got to run them separately. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run our database container, which I will do by specifying. There is an alias for this command in the make file, but in the interest of being explicit and showing exactly what's going on, I'm going to type the whole thing out. All right.
I think people want to know what's going on. If there's a make command, do that. Or not.
Actually, I think I got it wrong, so I will just use the command. I'm just going to make sure it's built to the correct version first. Make Docker database. I forgot to stop it. There we go. All right, so I had to stop the container because I left one running earlier. And now we're waiting for the schema to get created. It's all that stuff that you see flying by you.
It's important to note for those unfamiliar with Docker that you, in general, if you're going to run Docker to persist data that you collect, you do not want to run your Docker, you do not want to run your database in a Docker container. This we provide so that you can get a quick demo of what is Augur going and show it to people.
If you need to do quick testing or you just want to try it out, this is the way to go. But if you're going to use this data for a while and you want it to be secure, we recommend that you use a regular database, and we're not held responsible if you mess up the Docker container because we told you so.
Even Docker recommends that.
Yeah, even Docker recommends that. So now that I've got the container started up, which is just running on the default port of 5432 with credentials already set up, I'm going to, so this directory is inside Augur. This is called Augur Face. And so this is the demo UI component that Michael has been working on. Runs in its own little view app in this one directory, and then talks to the backend. So if I go ahead and start this up, it'll take a second. We've got to build stuff. There we go. Much faster than Augur. All right, so now that that's up, I've got to do one more thing, which is I'm going to run the backend. And I'm just going to disable the housekeeper in this case because we're not doing any data collection for the purposes of this demo. This is just a lot faster. So now that it's up, I'm going to go ahead and navigate to localhost 8080, which is where Augur Face is being run. This login is just doesn't do anything right now. So this is the pièce de resistance, if you will. And so we've got a couple capabilities here. One, we can import all the repositories from a GitHub organization. So like if I were to go to github.com/chaos, like I could just pass this chaos name to here and it would import all the repositories. I'm actually not going to use chaos because it would take a minute. And I just want you guys to be able to see that it works. We also could create a whole new repo group manually, and then once we've created it, we would come down here and add repos that way. I'll start by demoing the just reporting or importing from an organization. So this is the Mizzou Computer Science Club GitHub repo. It's only got one repo in it, so it's pretty fast. So if I hit import, successfully imported GitHub organization, and now if I open this, you can see that in fact I do have this repo available here. Clicking on it doesn't do anything right now. It's just the capability of adding it. But if I were to go to, so if I log into the database and I select star from augurdata.repo, we can see in fact that the repo did get successfully loaded into the database here. And then from here, we could do data collection on it now that it's actually been loaded in. Really a pretty simple process. Used to be, you had to create a CSV file and run at the command line and have Augur installed correctly and all of that stuff. So
yeah,
doing it this way makes it a lot less complicated.
And I think there's two main ways that people want to add repositories to Augur or any other system. One is with the complete Git URL. And in that case, usually community managers have a spreadsheet of all the Git URLs that they're keeping track of. And so in this case, it says comma separated Git URLs, but Michael's going to make that be just carriage return separated because that's how people store things in spreadsheets. And you just be able to paste in one to however much storage you have, Git repositories of any kind. And so you copy paste from your spreadsheet in the group that you want things to go into, and they just get added. The other way that's very common is, as you just illustrated, I want to create a repo group that just has all the repositories from a GitHub organization or a GitLab organization in it. And so you just put the name of the organization in and it'll import all of them.
Right. And I'm going to see if this works. Michael said it might not be working. No, coming soon. That's right. He's been working on that. I think he found something that was up with that. Okay. But it would essentially be the exact same, not the exact same, but still be the same thing. You would create this new repo group manually, and then it would just create a blank repo group down here. And then you would come down here to, click on it, and then you would paste in your URLs in case you had some in different organizations under different users, or you didn't want all of the repos in an organization, you just want a specific subset. You would use it in the same sort of way. And then, so if I refresh it, it actually should show up. So I could, we can try. Actually, no, it's right. It is comp separated. I was going to say I could try the carriage return, but I don't think he's done that yet. But that is essentially all of this front end does right now. We do want to kind of flesh this out more. Obviously, have this working on stuff. Clicking on these would actually do something. I'm not sure exactly what we would want it to do yet.
Clicking on.
Yeah, honestly, it would
front end page.
Yeah, just going to a front end page with this repo already loaded. Would be super cool.
Yeah, so I think so. This is really we're putting in the distribution to the Docker container to make it easy for people to get started. We're not going to distribute it. I mean, we'll make it available if people want it, so they can run it locally. But we're not going to distribute it as a component of Augur because we don't have sign-on in Augur yet, and we don't want people to have the ability to create, update, or delete any of the repository information in an Augur instance in an unsecured page. So right now it's a separate Git repository that is added to the Docker container, and I think we can build a script to clone it so that people can run it locally and edit their own instances if they choose to. But obviously it's not something that you would want. We would not want this on the web. Nobody would.
No.
Until we have it behind an SSO.
Right. Which is why that login and heavy air quotes page was there at the beginning.
Right.
But yeah, that's essentially this demo. Anybody else have any other questions? Want me to go over anything, explain anything more in depth?
No.
Cool.
All right.
And I think Michael and I are meeting up later today to work on this, so hopefully it will be available sooner rather than later.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm fairly certain that I already know pretty much the steps I need to follow to get it to work in the front-end container for Docker. I just need his help to do one or two tiny little things.
Yeah.
And I should be able to make it work.
I do have to say I was really impressed with how much faster Augur downloads and builds now after all of the refactoring work you did over the weekend, Carter.
I'm also glad that it goes much faster.
It's much faster now. Also, I think some of the things are just much more. I mean, everything is getting more robust. The tests that I'm doing require fewer interventions. It's becoming a very stable piece of software, and so I'm very excited about what we have to show here.
Yeah,
Gabe. I think it might be helpful. I don't know, Gabe, if you're in a position to illustrate some of the work that we're doing around community reports drawing from the Augur database. So one of the things about Augur is it has, I would say we expose maybe 10% of all the data that we collect, and some percentage lower than that of all the questions you can ask on the dashboard.
Yeah.
And right now we're in the process of going through this kind of what I call iterative cycle, where we're building custom reports for different communities, obviously leveraging things that multiple communities are interested in, and then using them to produce kind of more like PowerPointy reports using Jupyter notebooks. But the queries that we're developing and the questions that we're answering, I think, become ultimately endpoints for Augur so that people can get at that information in a more routine way. So it's, we're at a point where with the data that we have, I think is quite stable and robust and validated. And now we're focused on helping people be able to make sense of it in all of the ways that you can't make sense of unstructured data. Essentially, a lot of the things that we, like Gabe will illustrate here, are not things that you can accomplish with unstructured data, which is, yeah.
Do you want me to switch to a different branch?
Or at least not easily.
That branch isn't pushed. I'm gonna join the call on my own laptop so I can share
Sure.
screen and share some of that work you just
Yeah.
I'm just gonna drop off the call so we don't get interference from the mics.
Okay. Hopefully I'm not.
Actually, I'll just mute.
Senchit, do you have any questions?
Just the Kubernetes related upload.
Is that still not finished?
The last time I checked, it was on 29,000. I have not checked in a day or two.
All right.
So
let me just take a look at that.
Yeah, I'm trying to load PG admin, so it'll slow it away.
Is my screen still being shared?
No, there is no screen sharing at this time.
Okay. Did you get the link?
Yes.
All right, Gabe's pulling it up in just a second. I was gonna say something else, but I don't remember what. Oh, so as part of the Docker stuff that I've been working on, this isn't in dev yet. I opened a draft pull request, but there also will be some new commands, that Python commands that will create the schema and load sample data for you, using Augur's, using the Augur command line. So people won't have to, so long as they've got the database up, they can just run the commands to create the schema and load the data automatically. So they don't have to worry about, running or logging in with pSQL and running, in which scripts to run and what order. We can just point them to the commands and it'll do all the work for them.
Sounds good.
Is it not coming through? I'm just test
Tiger Wi-Fi is not being my friend right now.
Yeah, I use my Wi-Fi network.
Which one is that?
Gopher.
Gopher. Do you know the password?
I don't. I would hope it would share it with you. All right, Wi-Fi difficulties.
Sean, could you Slack Carter the password?
I don't know if I can, because I don't know if I remember it.
There's no way to see a password, is there? You might just have to use terminal Wi-Fi. Here, wait. I can just tell you. I was gonna say you could just push it and do it on my laptop, but if you can't connect to the internet, you can't push it either.
If you
show us, there's certainly the older version may not be as good, but if it exists on Carter's laptop.
Yeah, we're pulling that up right now.
Okay, I'll just share my screen again.
Oh wait, did
it work?
I don't know. No, it doesn't look like it.
All right. There you go.
Okay. Do you have any particular virtual environment for it?
Oh, I do need to activate the virtual environment. You're correct. Thank you for reminding me. Source. There you go. Now the virtual environment's up.
All right, so the report we've been working on primarily has been related to doing an in-depth analysis on our pull request data. And what do you compare? And so we've written a rather large query.
Yeah, one of the things about Jupyter notebooks is they do not let you hide the executable.
Can you go in your terminal
Yes.
in a separate window and activate the virtual environment?
It should be activated, but I just think I didn't install.
If you go in a separate one, then you don't have to shut down.
Oh, I didn't know that. Very should have been. Remind me to add that to the requirements.
And if you go in,
I think, are you connected?
Sean, do you have the link to that Google Slides presentation that you could Slack Carter? Because I think that has some really good visualizations.
Yep, I do.
Okay.
That's the longest.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Oh.
I just installed it.
Install it in your home directory, or like with
with no
environment. Because
here, let me just do
with Jupyter, you have to use IPy kernel to attach your virtual environment to the kernel.
All right, I've shared it with Carter.
Oh, that way. Put this up. Okay, right. And this should be installing, so whenever it's done.
This may be a better place to start. I don't think we need to show the entire large query that we made to produce this data. But here's some of the cool things that we have done with that data to try and tell a story about different repositories based off of the pull request data we have available. And then so this presentation in particular focuses around Zephyr. And if you want, I can put this link in the Zoom channel.
Yeah, don't put the link in the Zoom channel just because it's for a particular community, but I think it's illustrative and it's a work in progress. So we're still making some refinements. For example, in the course of wanting to understand pull requests, we wanted a better understand. Kate in the Zephyr community wanted a better understanding of the size and the commit size and the lines of code for pull requests. And you can get that for accepted pull requests, and you can get commit counts for not accepted pull requests. But what you can't get for a not accepted pull request, which makes sense, is the lines of code. Because if the pull request isn't accepted, oftentimes the fork is, whatever was in the fork and rejected is overwritten or deleted. So there isn't a persistent record of things that are not accepted other than the metadata of number of commits. So we have a new actual collection model that we're using to get some of that data. But yeah, go ahead
and there's all sorts of other metrics that are really interesting to look at about pull requests that we do have available. And one of those, another thing that we
just explain this graph.
Yeah, so something people are interested in is how the response time of pull requests changes over time for their repository. And so if we look at this one, we're showing the mean response times for these 3 different years, and we're also showing the mean first and last response times on these pull requests. So this visualization kind of gives you a picture of, one, how responsive the maintainers are of the repository, and also how long they let these pull requests run for before they finally make a decision on it. And as you can see here, there's kind of a consistent increase, and that could be because of maybe extra congestion with pull requests, and the maintainers are busier. But these are the questions we're trying to raise with producing these graphs and kind of digging deeper into our data more than you can see on our front end, and hopefully eventually making some of these things into endpoints so more people can get easy access to these.
And possibly even an alternate collection of, it would be less of a dashboard and more of a browsable set of visualizations that people could access for their repo.
Yeah. And another interesting thing to note is that we have the ability to distinguish between the merged and non-merged pull requests, which people are very interested in, seeing that distinction, how reaction times differ between the two.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Are all of these numbers, are those days, like number of days?
Those are days.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I saw it said days to close on the bottom, but I didn't know if all of these numbers were days.
Yep, these are all days.
Okay, that makes sense.
So mean response times in days is kind of the gist of this visualization.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that you've done that made it much more helpful for the community is including that total number of you've got days to close. I thought you had I guess this one does not have the total number of pull requests.
No, but there is a volume visualization below.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and go to the next page.
Okay. And so this one gets between, also kind of gets at kind of reaction times and how active the maintainers are in keeping up with pull requests that are open on their repository. So this one is showing you the mean hours between pull request comments on ones that are left open. And there's also separate lines showing the difference between all of the closed pull requests and just the slowest 20% to close. So you see in purple, these are the slowest 20% pull requests that were not merged, and the red ones are all the pull requests that were not merged. And here you can really clearly see a difference between like how the merged and not merged affects how active the maintainers are in their comments on these pull requests, because there's a notable gap here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's clear, like members of the community mentioned that the pull requests that are open a long time, often it's the case that people don't want to close the pull request and reject it. And so the sort of social awkwardness of not wanting to close it and reject it lets them stay open longer sometimes.
Yeah, yep. That's a good point. And so if we go to the next one, this one is a heat map of days to close. And this one allows...
My screen hasn't changed yet.
How about everyone else? I'm on a heat map page now.
What I'm seeing on the main screen is not a heat map.
Yeah.
I'm just still seeing slide 2. Is everyone else seeing slide 2?
Yeah.
Huh.
Now I'm seeing slide 4.
Okay.
If that was your intention.
Okay.
I think
must
maybe
have been a different window.
Yeah.
Were you all seeing this graph when I was talking about it?
No, we actually weren't.
Oh, okay. Well, this is the one that I was describing.
Sorry about that.
You weren't looking at it. Yeah, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, I hit present so it would go full screen, and I thought it would it recognized it was Firefox. That's my fault for not realizing. Sorry.
So this is the one I was just talking about the mean hours between comments on pull requests. And how there's a distinction between the not merged and merged, and Sean explained why that was the case.
Yeah, and now it's easier to understand because we're looking at
the
right thing.
Yeah, sorry about that. And then so this one is a heat map that allows you to see more granularity in the mean days to close. In the first one, we could see these bar graphs grouped by year, but sometimes you want to look more closely, maybe to follow a release or something like that. And if and when we turn this into an endpoint, we'd have the ability to make this type of granularity as a parameter that you could change and fit to your needs, which is a cool visualization because you can see the difference in colors and see where things are slowing down, what times of years. And these are just some of the same ones.
Now, there's two different ways that you did this as well. One, so there's a collection of 6 repositories that we're looking at here. And so on the left side, you've got the performance of Zephyr compared to itself, right? So this is a heat map with a range going up to 9 days of closed time as a mean. And then on the right, you have Zephyr's pull request speed compared to the other 5 repositories in the real-time operating system space. And so we're working on, we certainly are interested in suggestions about how to better represent these distinctions, but there is the within your repository evolution of speed over time, but there's also the how fast are you in the context of other projects you care about question that these visualizations help to answer.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, as Sean described, the heat max on this one is determined by Zephyr's statistics alone, while this one of 75 is adjusted to fit the pull request response times of the other repositories. So if we see down here, it allows you to better compare one repository with others if they're on the same scale. And it's just cool to note the distinction between Zephyr compared to itself and then compared to others. So whether you're looking for performance relative to how you were in the past or relative to other repositories, this kind of gets at both of those.
Yep.
So this next one, actually, I'm gonna move past this one because we had adjusted the data for this one.
Is that the one? Is that the one where we have to fix the data's fixed in this? There is.
The data's fixed now, but the visualization's not updated.
Yeah,
so I'd rather not show the incorrect data.
Good call. Because the data's wrong. That data, you're still showing the wrong data slide with the yellow.
Actually, I think this data is correct now.
No, those comment counts are not correct.
Yeah, I guess the comment counts aren't, but all the other ones are.
Sorry.
So this one is a volume metric showing the number of pull requests across each of these years. And so here you can also see the distinction between merged and not merged pull requests, and as well as the merged and not merged of the slowest 20% to close. And then this one also allows you to see the ratio of merged to not merged for each year. And see if it's tightening over time or getting more inclusive, or maybe there's just a lot more to sort through and that causes less to be merged, or whatever the case is.
And it does look a little busy, but I think that when we're looking at it and talking with folks about it, that there was a real desire to understand what the actual numbers were. So the bar graphs alone without a numerical annotation was difficult for them to get us a real sense of the differences from. So the extra decoration on the bar graphs creates clarity for the people who are using the report.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Without the annotations, you can kind of see the size relative to the other bars, but it's hard to paint to get the whole picture without the raw values. Um, and then so these last two slides just kind of show some raw data um, about the days to response, days to the first response on each of the pull requests merged and not merged for a repository. And so you can just look at the raw data to see a general trend, see how many outliers may be skewing any sort of mean, um, and just kind of see where things where the majority tends to lie, which in this case is towards the bottom. But yeah, with these metrics and visualizations, we're just trying to tell a better story and make use out of all the data we have available, because we have a ton of data available, and we want people to be aware of it, and we also want to be able to tell the stories because we have that capability now.
Yeah, and I think it's been really helpful putting together these community reports to to get a sense of what are the questions that people want to ask that um, we can help them answer. And then also just having the opportunity to talk to folks and dig in with sort of the questions they have about the data that they see, so that these reports become more of a standard part of the tools that we're building here on the CHAOSS project. That it's not just the very small percentage of data that's collected and questions that data can answer that we're looking at, but we're actually able to help people sort of iteratively dig in, ask questions, try to understand their own communities. And then I think from those discussions, two things are emerging. One is software more closely tuned to what people want to understand. And also, I think ultimately metrics that are aligned with what some of these community reports are generating.
Yeah, definitely. It helps us learn um, it helps us get a much better idea of what community managers are looking for, and that helps a lot with when we're designing metrics or putting other things together like these,
Right.
Are there any questions about any of this data or visualizations?
Hi, this is Sanjit. I have a question. So I
Yeah.
have been talking to Sean about some Zephyr related data that I needed for one of the analysis. And I saw the discussion that was going on the worker channel that you guys are creating the pull request commits table. We were
Mm-hmm.
trying to see figures regarding pull requests which were actually closed, but their commits were not available on the commits table in the Augur database that we had.
Yeah. So
So
what happens is that when a pull request is merged, all of the commit SHAs that are in that pull request don't get stored uh, in the pull request metadata that we were collecting. So essentially, all the commits for each pull request are there. The pull request commits table is the map that lets you unpack a pull request and examine the commits that are in it. One important caveat when you're looking at pull requests is that the only pull requests for who the only SHAs, the only commit SHAs that show up for pull requests are those that are in the master branch. So you'll have pull requests across many different branches or forks in the pull request record set. The things that end up recorded as a SHA in the commit table are just those things that are released. The So the data for the other branches does exist, We don't store it right now because it hasn't been honestly, it hasn't been a question. And even the Zephyr group has indicated a lack of interest in that data. But they do want to understand the relationship between the size of the actual pull request in terms of number of commits, lines of code, and that the raw metadata for commits is in all pull requests. We are, I believe, now getting that, but what we can't get are that sort of that code size. The lines of code is only available in cases where the pull request was merged into the master branch.
Yes, but we're still able to get a sense of size of pull requests and the relationship to being merged and not merged by being able to see the number of commits on pull requests, which we are able to get for every pull request opened, whether or not it's merged into master.
Okay, so the pull request commits table, is that already implemented and is that available in the Mudcat server?
I actually, when you looking at the repo, I looked at the repo that you've been gathering data for, that one very giant pull request repo with 54,000 pull requests in it, and I had actually added the repo commit to it. So the repo commits will start showing up for you as that pull request worker completes its scan.
Okay, so Sean, you're talking about the Kubernetes one, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that is that is a massive massive set of pull requests there, to say the least. And
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, and there's a few because of the size of it. It's just taken. I think, we could talk about that offline since you. I think you should be moving in the right. I think you definitely have the commits table now, and
so
the PR commits table is in the database that you're using.
Okay, so that would be under Augur data, right?
But it won't be very populated yet because I literally just started it off.
Okay.
No.
Did that answer your question, Sanchit?
Yeah, it did. I was just trying to see if I can, pick that work again. I know you guys were working on that new table.
Okay.
I'll start that until then. Thanks.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So right now, Sanchit, I can tell you that it is paging through the Kubernetes pull request, and it's on page 93.
Okay.
That's just in the last 5 minutes. So it's going through all the things it's collected already, and it's catching up to where it hasn't.
We are on 36,000 something, and we need about 53,000. So we're not too far.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's 36,000 collected and 18,000 missing right now, and I don't have a good explanation for why it didn't finish, other than the one thing I can think of is I did shut some instances down last week when I was trying to get a bunch of data for some other people, and but this instance was, I don't know why that wasn't done. But Kubernetes is at the top of the pile now, and so it should be getting that populated.
Okay.
I would say if you don't see it finished tomorrow, just keep pinging me.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, sure.
Were there any other questions regarding this pull request data?
None from me.
If not, I guess we can move to the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah. And I don't know how much in depth you want me to go into any of these, Sean. These two are pretty self-explanatory and kind of small. They used to not work. It used to be there was only ever one set of dependencies, and you had to install all of them, even if you were only doing for production. So now if you do just pip install dot, it only does production. And if you do pip install dot and then in brackets dev, it also installs the development dependencies, which isn't too many more, but it does keep things a little bit faster. And then the environment export, you used to be able a long time ago to set an environment variable flag and then run Augur. And instead of actually running, it would just export some specific config variables to a file, but it stopped working because I'm not really sure. But I wrote a
Augur just moved away.
Yeah, it's just
the old architecture.
Yeah,
the whole project's basically been rewritten
pretty much
in the past year.
Pretty much. So that feature finally works again, and it actually is useful if you want to do a Docker build. Like if you want to just try it out. If you've got a config file, you can just export it, and it creates the file that you need to run the Docker stuff. Like if you've it's for if you've configured an external database, but you still want to run Augur's backend and front end with Docker. If you've set up Augur, if you set up the credentials in Augur, you can just export it and it puts it in the exact format in the correct file with the correct name, and then you can just run the Docker stuff. That was really why I built it, but it works again. And then the image optimizations, I know actually we were talking about this last time. It used to take, 2 minutes to build 2 minutes to build the image anytime you made a change. And it would install all of the dependencies every time, even if the dependencies hadn't changed. And it just took forever. But it also was a huge image. It was like 1.5 gigabytes, which is a lot larger than it needed to be. Mm-hmm. So over the weekend, I found, I figured out how to actually use Docker's caching capabilities, and I switched the base image. And now, so long as you haven't added a dependency, it only takes about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds to build the image. And the image size dropped to like 550 megabytes instead of 1.5 gigabytes.
So does that allow you to make config changes and then just rebuild it in 1.5 seconds?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's a lot faster. So if you do need to change stuff,
that's really nice.
It's not the perfect solution for if you're like a developer and you need to change stuff a lot. There is probably a better solution, but it's a lot faster and a lot easier now. So like you don't have to. Like I would just have to sit there and twiddle my thumbs waiting to see if my changes worked when I was actually setting it all up the first time. I wish I had done this optimization first so I didn't have to sit there for so long. But that was a pretty major undertaking for me, at least, just trying to figure it all out. But it works now.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. It's nice.
Yes. And we have the first versions of the Docker images available on Docker Hub, actually. I would not recommend them using for anything significant because they're still highly in development. I'm changing them a lot still. By the time we release, they'll be stable. But they are available. They are on Docker Hub, and you can pull them if you really want to.
Okay.
Other than that, I think that's most of the major stuff that we've been working on. I know Gabe and I have been making also a lot of much smaller changes, cleaning some stuff up, cleaning up logging,
enhancing, trying to make things as robust and stable as possible.
Yeah, getting rid of old, outdated files. We are going to be updating all of the documentation in the coming week, which will be fun. It'll be very fun. Can't wait. But we need to do it because I haven't touched the documentation in probably at least a month, probably longer, which is. You didn't hear me say that. But yeah, that's kind of where Augur is at right now. Is there anything else I'm forgetting, Sean?
No, I think that's those are excellent. Excellent things to have available.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I'm getting excited about our next release and doing some demos and getting the documentation updated in our documentation hack next week.
Yep.
So, yeah, exciting stuff. Good job, everyone. And the recording is over apparently since Matt left. So,
all right.
I will catch you all later.
All right. Sean, are we still meeting for the Jupyter Lab stuff? When do you want to do that?
So I have class at 2.
Okay.
And I got some other stuff I'm trying to finish for Matt. I want to meet for the Jupyter Hub stuff. I don't know when that's going to happen though.
You had said you were free sometime Saturday, Sean?
Yeah, there's definitely some times on Saturday where I'm free. Hang on,
I can do that.
Let me see if I can. Let me dig up my schedule really quick here, which is really my wife's schedule.
Wait, it's still being recorded. I think.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, because Sanjeev's still in here.
Is it? Does it say recording? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he took over the recording.
All right. Yeah. All right. Can you stop recording, Sanjeev?
If you want to, you can just leave. We're trying to plan a meeting. I just asked a question without thinking about it.
Yeah.